He was the face of basketball's purest dream, a towering redhead who made the game sing in harmony. In 1978, Bill Walton ruled the league as MVP, his Portland Trailblazers playing the kind of team basketball people still whisper about. And then his body began to betray him. Tiny fractures formed in his foot, spreading like cracks in glass. What started as soreness became agony, each step a reminder that his greatness carried a terrible price. Over the next decade, Walton's career unraveled in operating rooms and recovery tables. Surgeons rebuilt his feet piece by piece, but the pain never left. He missed years, not games, years, and lived with the fear that one wrong movement could shatter everything again. Yet when most men would have quit, he limped back into the light. With Boston in 1986, on legs full of metal and painkillers, he found joy again, not as a star, but as proof that love for the game can outlast even a broken body. Before the surgeries, before the silence, there was a boy from San Diego who believed basketball could be perfect. For one fleeting moment, it was. He was born in La Mesa, California, a quiet suburb where the sun hit the driveways just right for a boy who loved to play barefoot. Bill Walton grew up in a house filled with books, music, and a belief that life was about more than trophies. His parents were gentle pacifists, people who valued thought over fame, and from them he learned that competition could be kind, that greatness could be shared. By the time he reached high school, his body had already begun to outgrow his world, tall, freckled, awkward, yet moving with a strange elegance that made every rebound feel like poetry. At UCLA, under the legendary coach John Wooden, that poetry became discipline. Walton wasn't just a player, he was the conductor of a symphony built on passing, spacing, and selflessness. Between 1971 and 74, his Bruins won 88 straight games, an empire of calm precision. Wooden taught him that basketball was a mirror of life, that character, not talent, defined a champion. But there were cracks even then. Walton struggled with a lifelong stutter, often hiding from interviews and public speaking. He felt more comfortable in motion than in words. His body seemed invincible, yet his mind was already learning humility, that even perfection demands pain. And when the Portland Trailblazers called his name in 1974, the boy from La Mesa stepped into a league that didn't yet understand how fragile brilliance could be. When Bill Walton arrived in Portland, the city didn't expect a miracle, but he gave them one anyway. The Trailblazers were young, raw, and untested, yet Walton turned them into something magical. At 7 feet tall, he wasn't a brute, he was a craftsman. Every rebound started a symphony, every outlet pass a note of grace. By 1977, the underdog Blazers stunned the league, defeating Julius Erving's Philadelphia 76ers in a finals that felt more like poetry than sport. Walton averaged over 18 points and dominated the glass, but what defined him wasn't scoring, it was connection. He made everyone around him better, from Maurice Lucas to Lionel Hollins. Portland became a family, and for one fleeting season, basketball looked perfect again. His rivalry with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar became the silent measure of his greatness. Kareem was elegance, Walton was balance. Their duels were philosophical, skyhook versus substance, style versus soul. When Walton won the MVP in 1978, it seemed like a new order had arrived. The league finally had a center who played for beauty, not numbers. But beneath the glory, his body was breaking. The pain in his foot, ignored for months, grew unbearable. After just 58 games, the MVP season ended not in celebration, but in crutches. The league's brightest light dimmed overnight. The genius who made the game selfless could barely walk. What happens when your mind is ready, but your body begins to crumble? For Bill Walton, that question became his reality. After the MVP season of 1978, tiny fractures in his foot spread like a quiet storm. Each practice felt like walking on glass. He tried to push through, wrapping his feet, hiding the pain, but the body that once made him graceful was now his greatest enemy. Within months, he was gone, first from the lineup, then from the game. The next few years were a blur of hospitals, surgeries, and hope that never quite healed. Doctors rebuilt his feet over and over, inserting screws, metal plates, and fragments of bone. He spent more time on crutches than in sneakers. The man who once glided down the court could now barely make it across his living room. There were whispers that he might never play again. Yet Walton refused to surrender. He studied meditation, practiced yoga, and filled his mind with philosophy and music. When the body failed, he turned inward, searching for strength somewhere deeper. By the early 80s, he tried to return with the San Diego Clippers, his hometown team, but the pain followed him, a shadow he couldn't shake. Still, every brief moment on the floor carried meaning. His passes were slower, his jumps shorter, yet his understanding of the game had only grown sharper. He wasn't chasing numbers anymore. He was chasing peace. By 1985, Bill Walton was nearly forgotten, a legend spoken of in the past tense. Then Boston called. The Celtics, Bird, Parrish, McHale were already a dynasty, but they needed something deeper: spirit, perspective, a voice that knew how fragile greatness could be. Walton accepted, knowing his body was close to breaking again. Every morning began with hours of therapy just to make his legs obey. The pain never left, he simply learned to live beside it. That season became his quiet masterpiece. No longer the star, he embraced the role of the sixth man, the anchor of the second unit, the calm beneath the noise. With a grin that masked agony, he lifted the Celtics through the 1986 playoffs, playing barely 20 minutes a night yet changing the rhythm of every game he touched. Boston won the championship, and Walton, limping through the confetti, called it the happiest year of his life. Few knew that he took painkillers before nearly every game, that his feet swelled so badly he needed new shoes at halftime. He never complained. He had found a kind of freedom, the joy of contribution without the weight of expectation. A year later, the body finally said no. Surgeries couldn't save what was left. In 1987, Bill Walton stepped away for good, not defeated, just finished. His farewell wasn't marked by tears or press conferences. It was a man in peace, walking off the stage he had once ruled. When the cheers faded, Bill Walton did something few great players ever manage: he turned pain into purpose. Retirement didn't end his love for basketball, it simply gave it a new voice. He reinvented himself as a broadcaster, a storyteller whose words carried both wisdom and wonder. The same stutter that once silenced him became his badge of courage. Every time he spoke on air, it was proof that the boy who once hid from microphones had found his rhythm again. His commentary wasn't about stats or tactics. It was about life. He talked about beauty, joy, balance, the same principles that guided his game. Some fans laughed at his eccentric style, others found it poetic, but all could feel that rare sincerity. Beneath the tie-dye shirts and the laughter was a man who had known pain so deep that joy became sacred. Walton also became a mentor, helping younger players understand that greatness is fragile, and gratitude is everything. He celebrated the sport that broke him, calling it the best friend I ever had. To the end, he radiated optimism, a hippie philosopher in a world of warriors. Bill Walton's legacy isn't just a championship or an MVP trophy. It's the lesson that beauty can survive suffering, that joy can outlast pain. His body betrayed him, but his spirit never surrendered. The story of Bill Walton is a reminder that greatness is not measured only in banners or statistics, but in endurance. From the glory of Portland to the heartbreak of countless surgeries, from the silence of recovery rooms to the noise of Boston Garden, his journey traced every corner of what it means to be human. He once ruled the game with grace, then learned to live with its cruelty, and somehow came out softer, wiser, and more grateful. Most players fade when their bodies fail. Walton found another way to celebrate what remained instead of mourning what was lost. The man who could barely walk became the man who could make millions listen. His joy, his humor, his passion for the art of passing all became his second act. In the end, the same man who once broke down on the court found peace in teaching others that life, like basketball, is best played with heart wide open. When fans today ask, "What the hell happened to Bill Walton?" the answer isn't tragedy, it's transformation. His body broke, yes, but his soul expanded. Because in the quiet between pain and joy, he discovered something most champions never do, that the game itself was never about winning. It was about love. If you remember Bill Walton's brilliance, share your memories below and subscribe for more untold stories from basketball's golden age.